list.
Hey everyone, I am Nick Valente of Moog Music. I am the International Sales Manager here, and this is
Michael Ashton from the engineering team.
And we are going to go over some 1.0.3 firmware features on the Moog One. Before we get started, and before I hand it off to Michael, I wanted to really quickly just go over how to update your Moog One. For those of you who just received it or haven't done an update yet. You should have had a USB thumb drive come in the box with your Moog One. If you take that out and plug it into a computer, you can download the 1.03 firmware to it from our website, moogmusic.com. After which you can put it into the back of the Moog One, and on the panel here, hit the settings, hardware settings, utilities down at the bottom. Click the encoder. If you go down here, you can see the firmware version that you're currently on. I'm on 1.0.3, so I'm not actually going to do the update here. But if you are on a previous firmware, you can go up to Update Firmware, at which point, once you have the USB drive plugged in the back, you'll have a list of all the firmware that's on there, and the option in the top right corner to install the 1.0.3 update. So if you guys have any questions about that, we're happy to help out. Should be pretty straightforward. And with that, I will hand it over to Michael to look at some of the features that we added.
Yeah, so in 1.0.3, one of the more noticeable features is something that's been requested for a while, which is a pan spread feature. So when you turn this on, and you can turn it on by going to the VCA page.
And I'll just pull up an initial patch so you can hear it.
Yeah. And you'll find down there in the VCA More page, we've added a new row. So you can now scroll down and you get a new row called Spread. And it's a continuous control. It goes from 0 to 100%. And when you're at 0, everything works like it normally does. But once you turn that all the way up, as you turn it more and more up to 100%, you'll find that each note that you play gets a new pan value. And this is a great simple way to get a nice big spread on a patch. So that's something that people have requested for a while, and we hope you enjoy it.
And if I can jump in, this works very well with the unison modes here. A little bit of detune makes it very obvious what's happening.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. So what's happening here, it works basically the same, except that in unison mode, every individual note that gets stacked up is going to get a different pan value. So if you have a unison count of 8, you're going to get that 8 different pans for each individual note. So that can make a really nice broad stereo spread effect. And as you play more keys in the unison mode, pan spreading will also continue to take effect. So it's a nice way to get an even bigger sound out of the instrument. All right, that's not all we did in 103. We added some stuff to the effects. So aside from a few improvements which we made to the effects, we added to the effects a stereo width parameter, which had not been available in previous versions, and it lets you just kind of set how the final stereo spread effect is working at the end of the chain. So that's a way to kind of adjust how the effects are sitting in the mix in terms of stereo.
Yeah, and that parameter, for those of you who weren't following along, if in the More page, it's actually in the Effect Type section. Down here, the second knob over, Stereo Width. it's using some mid-side algorithms to go up to kind of a super stereo effect.
Yeah, and it's something that's available for all effects. It's not actually part of each individual effect algorithm. So that's now something that you can adjust. We can also, in fact, I think you can actually go, oh, you did go all the way to 200% there. So yeah, it's kind of it's hard to see from here. While we were at it, we also made some improvements to the way that the effects sound. One of the things that, some of the gains were not quite right in some of the effects, so we went through and tweaked those, so that stuff should be a lot more stable now. And we made also some improvements which you can read about in the bug list, which just make the effects sound hopefully better. So we hope that these are improvements that people also enjoy. Moving along, we introduced a noise reduction algorithm in the previous version 102, or actually may have been before that. But at any rate, there's been a noise reduction algorithm in because, when we have a lot of these voices mixed together, there's been a kind of a high noise floor. So we made some improvements to that algorithm this time. And we also gave you a way to adjust it. So you can actually turn it off if you prefer that. Or you can make it even greater. And so this is something that exists in the preferences at the moment. That's up in the settings.
I believe if you go to settings and then hardware settings, you hit the encoder, you should be able to scroll down to noise reduction.
Yeah.
In this right knob, you'll be able to turn it off 0 dB or go all the way up to double what it was in the last firmware release.
Yeah. We did have some requests from people to be able to disable that algorithm, but we also discovered that there was a way to improve it. So we think that the algorithm we've got in place now should have a little less disruptive effect on some patches. And we'll be happy to answer questions about that. Additionally, moving on to the front panel, some knobs are bipolar. So there's, there's a 0 setting in the middle. And with certain settings, especially I think fine tune, it can be tough to really dial in a small value around 0. So to make that easier, we changed the curve so that there's more sensitivity around 0 for some of those parameters. So now it should be a little bit easier to dial in a fine value. One of the things about this instrument is that the underlying sound engine just takes parameter values. So we're able to adjust these knob curves without changing the preset format. And finally, we made a little tweak to the way that the shift button works. And sometimes it would still be on, or it would not always do what you expect. So we've adjusted that behavior so that hopefully it will be a little more expected and less, not to say annoying, but hopefully it is not annoying now. So we definitely don't want to annoy anyone. So that is the main features and improvements. Should we?
The arpeggiator, just this is in the bug fix section, but I found it to be a fairly large usability thing. I'm just going to initialize this patch again, and we'll get a square so it's really obvious which is which. Now, if I have an arpeggiator on one voice, oops. And it's being held, I can actually turn off the keyboard control and it will continue to latch on, and I can move to another synth part and play over top of it. So that's another, probably probably a live feature that, though it's under the bug fixes section, I think is worth calling out.
I think we consider that to be a bug, yeah. It was not intended to work the way that it was working before. So what else can we say? There's a few kind of miscellaneous things. One notable thing is that the hold function will now apply to sequencer note triggers. So previously, the sequencer was not kind of paying attention to the hold setting when you were triggering it from a note, and now it does. So that's a little more consistent there's There was a silent learn mode for chord memory. Apparently, due to an oversight, that was not always having an effect, so that should be fixed now.
Sorry, I cut you off, Michael. That would be, this is silent learn, where when I hit learn and as I play the chord, it's not playing back the sound. That setting is in settings, hardware settings, and then chord memory, silent learn. If it's an audible learn, if we go back and we hit the learn, you'll hear what you're playing.
And you might even get a stuck note there. All right.
There you go.
There we go. So we're not just fixing bugs, we're demonstrating them. So that one is definitely going in the list. There was, let's see, what else? Occasionally, if you switched user spaces, the setting of the master and headphone volume were stored in the user space. So if you switched to user space, you would get a new headphone and master volume. So that's been fixed. Now the headphone and master volume should always reflect what is set on the front panel, except perhaps in the case of MIDI. I think we're going to... Well, that's probably something I should leave for later. Okay. Should we take questions at this point?
We should take questions. Before we do, I would like to also call out and thank the group King for a preset pack, which is available on our website now, that launched with 1.0.3. There's some really awesome presets there. I encourage you to go check them out, download them, and install them.
All right.
Let's see.
Okay. So we've got a question here. We have a customer who's still having tuning issues in 1.0.3, and there is a rumor that if you reload 1.0.1 and then install 1.0.3, I presume that the rumor is that this improves the situation. I'm not sure why that would be. So I would have to say probably there is not any truth to that rumor. However, if whoever asked this question is having tuning issues, I would encourage you to get in touch with the factory directly, because we are aware of some issues there. And we are working on those actively right now, actually. So I would, at least certainly speaking for myself, I would be very interested to hear details on this, whatever tuning problem this is. Yeah. So please do get in touch with us so that we can hear about that.
The best way to do that is likely through our website, moogmusic.com. You can send us a chat or an email through there. We also, this is a good time to talk about Phone Home.
Well, yeah. In certain circumstances, we are able to get in to a unit and adjust certain things. We can't guarantee that we can do that for absolutely everyone, but when circumstances, or in fact every issue. Like we can't fix your hardware remotely, unfortunately, but there's a lot of stuff that we can potentially do. So yes, we would definitely encourage you to get in touch via the website and let us know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because we want to get your instrument in as best shape as we can.
And I would imagine that there are some calibration tweaks that could be done if your unit is in fact still having tuning issues in 1.0.3. That shouldn't be happening.
That's right. Yeah, we are still in a phase of improvement when it comes to tuning. We have discovered some issues following release, and like I said, we are actively working on those, and that's stuff that we can potentially address remotely if needed.
We have another user out there asking for ETA on MIDI clock implementation. Is that something that you
yeah, so I can say that's another thing we are very much aware of. That is high on the list. At this point, unfortunately, I can't give a firm date when the MIDI clock implementation will be fully resolved, but I can tell you that it is something we are actively working on.
And very, very,
Yeah, and
very
we're
high on
very
the
much
list.
aware of it. It's, yeah, we do know that there is that problem, and it will be fixed. And it, you know, not next year. I can probably go as far as to say that. So.
Can we another one while the sequence?
We got another question coming in here. Bear with us. It's a detailed one.
This is latency in the sequencer input. While the sequencer is playing and record is enabled, there seems to be a step delay in how the notes are input. I believe what you're saying is that you hit a note and it records on the next step after you've hit the note. Can you speak to that?
I can speak, well, a little bit. This, I think, may be actually by design.
Okay.
So the sequencer, yeah, that's not entirely my department there, but that's a great one to pass along. I think that is potentially something that we could make a user preference. So we'll note that one down and definitely keep it in mind. Yeah, let's see what's going on there.
Yeah. So yeah, it is doing that.
So the sequencer is one of the biggest components in the system, and as you probably noticed, there's a lot of different ways of doing things. This is one potential choice that is made during the design, and yeah, it's fantastic to hear from people about how they want the sequencer to work, and it's something that that we're going to definitely make note of.
Yeah, the more options we can give to you guys, the better.
Yeah.
Ooh, there was some debate about
Can
this
you
one.
implement lower values on the envelopes when in sync mode?
Lower than 1/64th.
Lower than 1/64th. 1/64th on the attack. All right, our trusty scribe is doing his best, so please bear with us. It's another long one here.
I see what you're saying.
Okay. That's actually a good point.
So if I can just read/paraphrase this question, it's asking if the ability to implement values lower than 1/64th note are possible on a stage of an envelope when the envelope is set to sync mode. In other words, can you have something to the effect of open up this envelope immediately, so faster than 1/64th, and don't affect the how sunk it is to the rhythm?
Yeah. Yes, that is possible, and I will add that to the list. Thank you for that.
I think what Michael means is that it is possible for us to do given the hardware, but is not implemented in this version of the firmware.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, that is something that the hardware can handle. It may not be possible in this current version of the firmware, but it's something that we will certainly consider for implementing in a future version.
Yeah, and we really appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah, most definitely.
We do use it.
Oh yeah, well we rely on it. This is how we make the instrument better.
Can you clarify the stereo support of synth effects?
Okay, can we get a little more detail in that question there? Okay. Oh, this is a great question. Let me make sure that we're actually talking about the right thing here. Okay. So the question is, can we talk a little bit about stereo support in synth effects, particularly given that some people are saying that the effects are mono. So I've heard this as well, and So yeah, this is a good chance to clarify this. The synth effects are basically mono input. So the input to each synth effect is taken prior to the pan control. And that's basically a hardware limitation. And so you can think of the synth effects as, like a guitar pedal that has a mono input, or any effects processor that has a mono input, but a stereo output. So all of the effects do have a stereo output. So it is absolutely possible for a synth effect to generate a stereo output, and they should be doing that. We do have a few effects that, well, we've had the effects in previous versions not being as stereo as people expect. And so that is something that we are actually continuing to look at and get feedback on so that we can improve the effects and make them kind of do what people expect. But if the question is, are the synth effects mono in, mono out? No, they are not. They are mono in, stereo out. So we can absolutely do stereo on those effects. And there are some there are effects in the list, I think, that are giving a stereo output. It's just some of them that you would expect are not as stereo as people might expect.
Sure. And obviously, if you use a mono delay, it's going to come back in dual mono.
Yeah. There are also mono effects in that list, and those are just mono, and that's just the way those are. But that is not a hardware limitation. The effects can definitely have a stereo output.
Another thing on that note, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, is that the master effects, when you have the choice between stereo or mono, it is either one stereo in, stereo out effect, or two mono in, stereo out effects.
That is
in other
correct.
words, you can have two ping pong delays that are each ping ponging in stereo. They're just taking a mono input.
That's right. Yeah, the master effects, and this is, again, due to hardware, have a slightly different setup. And because there's actually a VCA send from each voice, you can think of it like a channel on a mixing console. And the master effects are, they get their input from those VCAs. So we've set it up so that you can have them operate as two mono sends to two different effects, both of which are stereo out, or you can have a stereo input to the master signal, and you can actually get a panned signal going into the master effect. So you can have a stereo in, stereo out situation there. That's not something you can do on the synth effects. Those are always mono in, but you can have a stereo in to the master effect. You can just only have one of them because we only have two wires to do that with.
I have another question. I have come across a few patches that have a building feedback of noise operated from the...
It says generated from the effects.
From the effects, usually master effects. Noise does not go away with when parameters are brought to 0. I'd be very curious to hear which presets you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, so there is an issue out there that we've been kind of investigating. In some cases, people have been reporting like a very low level tone in the effects. And this is happening, I think, particularly on the master effects. And it would be a tone kind of buried in the noise. So you would hear it on turning up the outputs very high, like turning up the headphone outputs. So I don't, unfortunately, have any definitive answer for that one yet, but I can say that if that's what's being referred to in this question, it is definitely something that we're looking into.
Sounds like the user noted Apollo strings.
Okay.
I hear that.
It does seem to be some noise back there. Some of the reverbs that have a lot of feedback to them may tend to pick up on that noise, and so we'll look into solutions for that going down the road.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you for being specific with those presets.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll take a look and figure it out.
That is very helpful. Okay, DSI sequencers do live record and playback of changes. Can Moog One do this? By changes, I'm going to guess that what's meant is parameter changes. So I don't believe we support that right now, although we do support parameters going out of the sequencer. So it might be that there are some additions that we can make to the way that those parameters are input into the sequence. So that's something that I think we can look at down the road.
And where you access that is in, if you go to the More page in the sequencer, you can hit Step Edit, and on the top you have Notes, which is going to be your first row of, obviously, note recordings, and then Modulations will let you record, or kind of piano roll style, put in modulation changes.
Now, is that something that you're doing? I shouldn't be ignorant about this, but is that something that you can do kind of in real time as the sequence goes along?
To my knowledge, you have to add them
Yeah.
on a step-by-step basis.
So this user is asking for this live recording, which, that's something that we can investigate adding down the road.
Sounds awesome.
No promises, of course, as usual, but yeah, I think that's a potential thing.
Any way to get rid of effect glitches when changing presets? I know this is something we've been talking about internally. Can you speak to that, Michael?
Yeah, so this is always a challenging thing. If you think about kind of the nature of an effects processor, you put in a sound, it does things for a long time. So if you're changing patches on an effects processor, especially if sound is going on at the time, you have to decide how are you going to make that break. And so we've actually done a pretty surprising amount of work to make that transition as seamless as we can. I think there are probably some glitches here and there still remaining. It's a surprisingly tricky problem, but it's definitely not beyond our team of engineers, and especially if we can get some specific reports about people's concerns there, it's something that we'll be very happy to address, because that's definitely kind of one of those ongoing issues that can take a long time to really get right.
Can you increase the gain on synth effects so that they've reached unity gain with the bypass signal? Some are not reaching unity with bypass.
Okay.
That's something that, if you look at the release notes of 1.0.3, we have addressed in this update, correct?
Yes. So this should be improved at this point. I did hear that in some cases, in some situations, this may still not be quite ideal. So I think we need to, there's a lot of different cases to test here, so it's possible that we missed some, and so we will continue to investigate that and make sure that, because they should be the same whether bypassed or not.
Can you apply spread to the effects? So I will define spread quickly a couple of ways and then answer that question. As we have it in the VCA, stereo spread is moving one voice one direction or another, so that if you play a handful of voices, they're spread out, each one individually in a different pan position. That kind of by definition is not something that applies to effects, but we went over it earlier in the effects section. If you go to the More button and then the type, you can control the stereo width, which is a mid-side algorithm which will superficially take the stereo-ness of that effect and enhance it up to 200% of what it would normally be. So you can create a wider stereo field from the effect return. It is not necessarily, spread might be the wrong terminology for it.
I guess we'd need to know more precisely what is meant here by spread. If pan spread is what you're referring to, then we can't do that with synth effects because they're mono input. And by the time the synth effects get the signal, it's already mixed together. So you're not going to be panning the individual notes at that point. That is something that we can do for master effects if they are stereo in. But the effects themselves are working on the signal after it's all been mixed together. So you're not going to have an effect that can pan individual notes. Down the road, we could potentially look at panning effects within an effect that would pan the entire thing. That's obviously a technically possible thing, but yeah, I hope that covered what that question was about.
Can you turn local control off in the keyboard and send keyboard notes out via MIDI?
That should be possible, yes. And if it is not,
yeah, we'll double check. But
actually, you know, there may be an oversight here, unfortunately, in the current version of the firmware, where keyboard control is also affecting MIDI output. And you know, there should be a way to do this, to have this basically, you know, to have a local off where you are not affecting synth 1, 2, and 3, but you are still getting output on the MIDI. So that should be working. If it's not, rest assured we will fix it as soon as possible.
Generally, the way that local control is handled is on a per synth basis. So synth 1 is on now. We could turn it off here. What you may want to do in the short term is leave, if you want to not trigger but have it go out, you could potentially leave keyboard control on for the voice that you're on, and then set the high note, some super low note you're never going to play. Now I'm never going to trigger on this whole keyboard. I'm not going to trigger this string, but I should continue to send the output.
Yeah, and if that doesn't do it, another kind of maybe more sledgehammer way would be to leave keyboard control on, but turn the VCA down for that voice. So then you're guaranteed that a MIDI note will be transmitted, but you're not going to hear that voice. So that's always something you could do. But yeah, if that's obviously a pretty basic feature, and we will do our best to get that working if it is not working properly.
Implement pitch and gate CV out. This is, I believe, something we're working on. Can you speak to time?
Yeah,
frame?
I can't give any again. I can't give any dates, but that is absolutely on the list.
When syncing all LFOs, changing the rate of one LFO makes the others skip or restart. I would encourage you to reach out to us directly. Either give us a call or shoot us, or go to our website, moogmusic.com, and start a chat or an email. That sounds like it might be. I would have a lot of questions to ask you about that I can't really get into
we would
here.
probably want to know something about the situation. In this particular case, it might be helpful to send us the preset that's having the problem. I would think that if this is going on in a particular situation, that would be a bug that we could look at fixing.
Yeah, at any rate, it sounds like a very specific use case. Great.
All right.
Well, if there are no more
so
questions.
So far, it looks like we've run out of questions here.
Oh.
We got another one. These have been some really great questions, by the way. We really appreciate everyone's interest and participation here.
Sorry, just making sure.
We don't want to leave any of you guys hanging, so.
I don't know, a little suspense added to this podcast is or live stream.
Modulation recording you don't monitor it until it plays back the second time. They want to know, can we monitor modulation recording of the sequencer in real time?
I think okay, so the question is, can we monitor modulation recording in real time during the sequencer? That sounds very much related to the previous question about, you know, can we do this certain style of sequence recording. So I think that would probably be part of that feature.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Like
frankly, I want to dig in a little bit deeper to the mod recording side of this instrument. There's a lot in there that I haven't explored personally. So we will make sure to do that, maybe put up a demo library video or something like that on there in the future.
Yeah, that sounds like something we will have to have some discussions about internally. But well worth doing.
King presets, yeah. Yeah, let me, I believe they're in their own user space.
All right, we're gonna switch over and demonstrate some of these awesome presets that we got from King.
There's drums. It's pretty cool. Answers for asking, we'll go to beaming. This one probably sound pretty cool with the stereo spread that we have.
Are we? Oh, if you're doing stereo spread? Actually, this. Are we only getting? Okay.
Oh, is it? Okay. Blended bells. Like that kind of wonky tuning. Blurry hurry. Cleaner pipes. It's got some cool aftertouch implementation. Cloud 13. Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, they were using chord mode. Cruise control. Kind of sounds like a sitar. Daydreaming. Earthworm Slim. We have a couple more questions coming in, so yeah. Currently, Apple keyboards don't work with One. Any fix in the future?
Okay, so I guess all I can say to that is they should. So if they aren't, we want to know about it, and we want to fix it.
It'd be really helpful if you could contact us with some more specifics about the specific keyboard make.
Yeah, get in touch on the website and let us know which keyboard is not doing the job there. Okay, would be nice when we have a feature request here.
When exporting, it would be nice when exporting presets to filter by the type rather than scrolling.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Similar to how you can search when you're loading presets. That is a great suggestion.
That seems like a good thought. Thank you.
I'm going to continue to go down the list here.
All right,
some of these King presets. Let's go to Electric Glide next, alphabetically. That's a mono. More great use of aftertouch. EP, lift mod for brightness. Cool. Thanks for the instruction.
That's a pretty one.
Might be good with an ARP.
I don't know, I probably shouldn't give opinions on these.
So yeah, very nice. Looks like it actually has a turned off ARP layer built in there. Cool. Euphorica. Nice. Fairy hair.
Interestingly, that one is not chord mode.
Looks like they're using the multi-timbrality to create some chords, which is
Actually,
cool.
what are they doing? Is that this is a this is a layer. That's another very nice one. Of course, my opinions on these patches do not reflect the opinions of the engineering team, but personally, I like a lot of these.
I like most of what King does. Inside voices. Yeah, very nice. A couple more questions coming in. We'll take a break on these presets.
First question is, can we have tuning calibration in the menu? Right now, no, obviously. But that is something that will probably be available in the future. Right now, we're not. It's the procedure is not amenable to doing that. There's a little bit more development that we would have to do. Of course, it's our hope that the instrument really will hardly ever need to be retuned. And I can tell you that in our experience, the tuning data lasts a very, very long time. So tuning is not something that people should have to do often. But we know that they're, certainly, especially in this initial stage where, we still have some bobbles and other issues. That's something that we will probably be making available to users. So yeah, look for that in the future.
Any luck with testing the wave angle bleep? Does that say bleep, Jim?
Bleed.
Bleed. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Wave angle bleed on oscillator 1, or is that too complicated for the live stream? I will let you speak to that. It's not something I've heard of.
So I guess I would want to know a little bit more about what this actually is. I'm not sure what wave angle bleed would be. To be frank, that doesn't necessarily make sense to me unless what I would guess maybe this is referring to is it's possible that if you turn the mix knob fully one way or the other, you're still getting a little bit of the other waveform. We hope that's not happening, but this is an analog instrument, and when you adjust that parameter, you are adjusting an analog thing, and so it does require calibration. I hope that it's perfect, but if it's not, please get in touch with us and let us know. Because we want it to be as close to perfection as we can get. So yeah, hopefully there should not be any bleed there, but if there is, again, please get in touch with the factory and
we're getting
let us
some.
know.
We're getting looks like a follow up here.
Oh, okay. This is all right. Good.
So 2 FM 1 and 2. This looks like maybe it is a little bit too complex to live stream. Jim, definitely keep writing that down though, because we want to test it. If possible, if you could reach out to us via our website, chat, or email, phone call, some way where we can get back in touch with you. We'll go through and test this out and see where we are.
Yeah, especially in case this is a problem that exists on your particular instrument but not on ours. Let's yeah, but we definitely do want to hear about this.
Great. I'm going to keep plowing through some of these presets. We have a little bit more time, so. Minihana. Very lush. Nightly news. Using chord mode again. Cool. Nokomis? Yeah, cool. Again, more use of. Open doors. Very cool. Organic go. This is using chord mode again.
Great chord mode stuff on these patches.
Yeah, thanks for that, King.
This is also a unison mode one.
Cool.
And unison.
A little bit of detune. Raceway. Nice, more chord mode. Somber song. Yeah, I feel like I was just saying before the live stream to Michael that some of my favorite sounds on this are not the ones I expected. I really love all these soft, organic sounds that the synthesizer is capable of. Texas Instrument. Another nice long.
I'll have to ask them where the name for this patch came from.
The Wash. Wow, very cool. Great use of multi-temporality in a lot of these synths. And good aftertouch. Water well. Finally, Wavering Pearl. Yeah, that's a cool one. Great. So that's about it for us. We will wrap it up. We really appreciate you.
Do we have any others coming in here?
No, I think we're good.
No?
Please continue to send us your feedback. It's really helpful. We can't do what we do without you all doing what you do.
Yeah,
so
the
really
instrument
appreciate it.
is for all of you. So without your suggestions and your feedback, that's, we can't improve the instrument. So yeah, please keep the questions coming.
See you later. Play you out.